Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to COASTER-net Update. We've got some breaking news out of Orlando, where SeaWorld has finally posted another good...
SeaWorld is floating to the top, Andy. They're starting to come back up to the surface.
Hold on. SeaWorld posted another good quarter. This is now their second quarter in a row that things are looking positive. Yep. But Danny, you know, if you watched, if you watched The Viewer, the show we did on attendance, SeaWorld was so far down. I think they hit rock bottom here. And now we see them coming back up. We see people returning to the parks, most notably a 5% jump in attendance. Yep. And a 5% jump in profit, or excuse me, a 5%. Oh man, now I lost it. Where'd it go?
So they were what, like 197 million in the hole.
So it was a 5% jump in revenue as well, and the company reported a profit of 23 million after losing 176 million. And I don't know if that wasn't. That was just previously. So we finally see, like you said,
right. So they were 176 million in the hole, and now they're 23 million in the black. So they're actually making money again, which is good news.
So and I tell you what, Danny, I've been going to Busch Parks, a lot. I like the direction that they're taking somewhat. That they are trying to focus more on rides. That I think is that we see that in San Antonio with the additions of like Wave Breaker. We hear that San Antonio is going to get more rides in the future. We see it in San Diego with with Electric Eel, and now we hear rumors that they're going to be putting in one of those Horizon Skywarp models next year. So 2 coasters in 2 years. In Orlando, we see Mako, and we said Mako really didn't move the attendance marker, but maybe finally people are realizing, hey, Mako is there. Maybe it just takes a little bit longer in Orlando to figure out that a new roller coaster is open. That Mako is there. It's a fine roller coaster. Just rode it, yesterday. Was a fine roller coaster. Yeah. And both parks, both Busch and SeaWorld Orlando, have been trying to do their nighttime experiences up a little bit more. They're doing a lot of food festivals. You have Electric Ocean at SeaWorld.
Fireworks on the top of Escape from Pompeii?
Well, so we see them doing a lot of things that we said they should do. And something else that you mentioned was that they mentioned in the articles as well, they are really focusing in on their rescue efforts. It's good that they do.
Yeah, I said to you a little earlier tonight when we were talking about this, I said I've seen a noticeable increase on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram specifically, where I'm just scrolling through and I will see videos about rescue stories or information about their rescue efforts, or how they do rehabilitation to rescued animals at the parks. And you never used to see that. It used to be all about the shows. It used to be about the experiences. You would see maybe a little bit about the roller coasters. But in general, it was more about what you experience at the park. And now we have seen a noticeable shift, I think, in what they present online with their online presence, and they focus much more on the conservation and the rescue efforts, which are things that SeaWorld has always done behind the curtain. But I think they're realizing, and we've talked about this before, that that's something they need to bring into the foreground. They need to make that more apparent, and need to kind of put the shows and the performances kind of on the back burner. And, that's something you see while you're at the park, but that's not what's bringing people to these parks anymore. What's bringing people to these parks at this point are going to be the rides. That's what's going to get you through the gate. The rescue efforts and the rehabilitation efforts, and making those more on the foreground and on the forefront of things, is going to be what keeps people from saying, well, I don't agree with what SeaWorld's doing. Instead, they're going to say, oh, well, SeaWorld is doing all these good things. Oh, and they have this new roller coaster, let's go to SeaWorld. And then maybe they'll see a show when you're there. So I think that's kind of the direction they're heading, which is maybe the correct way to go, as we've talked about here. And the other thing that both of you and I said some time ago was, we thought that maybe one of the things they needed to do to get out of this hole was to go for an IP. We had suggested heavily that maybe Sesame Street was the way to go. It was a family-friendly, kid-friendly
that they
IP
already had, too.
that they already had, because Sesame Place down, in my neck of the woods down near Philly is already in the SeaWorld Parks and Entertainment chain. Went there this year. They opened Oscar's Wacky Taxi. Great little ride in a really nice little park. Beautiful little park, actually. And they already have the Sesame Street kids areas at a lot of the parks. And sure enough, not long ago, we heard that SeaWorld Orlando is taking Shamu's Happy Harbor, taking away the Shamu branding, right? And they're bringing in the Sesame Street branding, which I think is a good business move for them to, again, take the whales and all of that kind of not out of the picture, but out of the picture before you get through the gate, because you need to do other things to get people through the gate. They're talking heavily about Infinity Falls and the different roller coasters and all that. So they're talking about different things now on their online presence and their advertising presence, and that's one of the things that they mentioned was one of the big things as to why they think that they're turning things around here.
Well, what's interesting as well is with the Sesame Street stuff is, we criticize Cedar Fair for maybe not hooking that next generation into the theme parks. And I'll say one thing, being that my nephew just turned one a couple of months ago, he watches Sesame Street a lot. And at the beginning and end of every Sesame Street show, there is a commercial for SeaWorld, that SeaWorld is pumping a lot of money into Sesame Street to get advertising there. And I'm going to tell you, that stuff has an impact, that as kids grow up, they're going to remember that stuff. And they're going to remember, hey, SeaWorld, I remember seeing those commercials. I remember what they did. It's all about, their conservation efforts and sending those positive messages home. And I think that in the long run, that's a good move, because you're hooking that next generation into your brand. And now when they go to Orlando for maybe a Disney trip and they see SeaWorld, they're going to be like, hey, that's something I want to do. And they're going to tell their parents, hey, and the parents are watching that too, saying, hey, maybe SeaWorld, it's free advertising, well, not free, you're paying for it. It's advertising that's targeted. That's targeted to your demographic that you want. You want those young families in there. That's why you're putting Sesame Street in there. That's why you still have, you have the big coasters to satisfy the whole group of family. Yeah. Something that I don't think a place like Legoland has really, having been there as well, it just seems like Legoland is for the young family, whereas SeaWorld, I feel that if you go there with a family, there's enough to do for everyone. There's the shows, there's the big rides, there's the experiences.
We're starting to get there, I think. I mean, you talked about it, a week or two ago, that Cedar Fair does not seem to be grooming the younger generation, the upcoming generation, for theme parks. They're taking your cell phones away in line. They're, charging.
Just think of the kiddie sections at the different parks. Like, they're adding generic rides in and not adding any more. That you have to start finding those family rides that people can do together, and those family experiences that people can do together.
I mean, you need your Fire Chaser Express type rides. I mean, I think that's one thing that the Herschend parks have always done quite well. Doing a real nice balance there. Dollywood and Silver Dollar City.
You've been on Wave Breaker. That's a very family-friendly ride.
Very family-friendly. We saw a lot of kids with parents, young kids with young parents. And, little girl, she couldn't have been more than, 7 or 8 years old with her dad, who was right behind us. And she wanted to go up front. And again, what was at the forefront of that ride? It's Wave Breaker, the rescue coaster, and it starts out where you get the rescue mission. So it's all kind of going into, they're kind of wrapping it up and tying it together with a nice little bow on top. And they're kind of setting the stage for dare I say they've weathered the storm now.
I don't know if they've weathered the storm, but they finally have a direction. Like
yes.
When Joel Manby came in, what did he do? What did he do?
He made off-the-cuff decisions. We're going to do this partnership. We're going to do this. We're going to do this. And it was, what are we going to do today? Not what are we going to do for the next 5 years? And we always talk about the direction there.
There was no plan there. And if there was a plan, it was a bad plan. He pulled back all the stuff. He irritated me more than anybody because SeaWorld had announced that big blue planet, blue ocean stuff where they were going to expand the habitats in San Diego. He canceled all of it and then followed up with nothing. Followed up with Mako, which is
there was no instead of.
Yeah, which is a great ride, Mako, but that wasn't a proper, this now they finally seem like they have a direction, and maybe that was Manby, maybe he just wasn't vocal about it, but they are now being vocal about it. They're saying this is our direction. We're focusing on the rescue efforts. We're focusing on the in-park experiences with Sesame Street. We're still, obviously, they're focusing on rides with all the, information that we've gotten. I feel that finally, I don't think they've weathered the storm. I think at least they have a direction where they can say, this is the way out of the storm, finally.
Yeah, they've at least got the headlights on and they're driving in the right direction, as opposed to they were kind of stopped on a backcountry road and had no idea where they were going.
Yeah.
So I think I don't know if it's correct to say the worst is over, but I think they, like you said, they have a plan. They have a 5-year plan. They have a game plan of some sort. They say, this is what we're going to do for the future. This is how we're going to get people to come back here because, we talk about Disney, and even though Universal has had these big attendance growths over the years with Harry Potter, you still have so many people going to Disney. My friends even still go to Disney and are taking their kids to Disney because they went to Disney as kids. It takes a while we're not going to get, you and me, I kind of went to Disney as a kid, and then when I got older, I went to Universal as a kid. People who are maybe, 5-6 years younger than me maybe went to Universal as a kid, and maybe they'll take their kids to Universal in 10, 20 years. But it's going to take a while. So right now, I don't know. But, right now, SeaWorld is kind of setting that up and trying to get the families to SeaWorld now so that maybe the next generation will take their kids to SeaWorld as well. Like you said, that's kind of the game plan that maybe they're going with here. And at least for the last 2 quarters, the plan's been working a little bit. So that's good news for them.
And I should also say that they also touted their annual pass holder numbers are up. And I can say that they treat, being an annual pass holder now, I can say that they treat us very well there.
They do.
I'm
one as well.
With the benefits that one receives when being an annual pass holder at SeaWorld.
Very strong passes for sure. We got ours for the first time 3 years ago, and I said, this is an incredible, for not much more than a Cedar Fair Platinum Pass. You get admission into some more expensive parks. You still get the parking. You get a nice discount on everything.
Yeah.
Food, merchandise, all that stuff. They take care of you as pass holder. They certainly have. And I've gotten each of the last 3 years. We're actually discussing whether or not we're going to renew and do the memberships now that they're kind of doing away with the passes and switching over to mostly the memberships. So, we'll have to see what parks we're planning on doing next year. But it's certainly one that I've had the last couple of years and have definitely gotten my money's worth and have felt like a valued member, pass holder during my time.
So I'll say it's been quite the switch where I was almost certain that SeaWorld would have to be sold off to someone else, but it seems like they could be coming out of it here. So we'll keep you updated here on all the financial news of SeaWorld and all the other parks and the exciting things that are going on this in season going into the 2019 season.
That's right.
As always, I'm Andrew Barczyk from Chicago, Illinois.
And Danny Miller from Binghamton, New York.
Right on, Red Warriors.
See you guys. You're wearing a SeaWorld shirt.
I know, brand new. Look at that. 30% off. Cool.
Bathe the whales.